Welcome back to Beautiful Work, Beautiful Life. We're here talking about your inner life and doing your inner work, which we're calling the beautiful work here because we know that when you do your inner work or your beautiful work, you can create the beautiful life that you really want to have deep within. So we're here today with a new guest. First, I'm going to say hi to Laurel. Laurel, aren't you super excited for our conversation today?
I can't wait.
I know, I know.
And I'm
So
happy to
this
be here as always.
I know, I know. This month we've been focusing on self-discovery tools. And as I was just kind of tuning in before we started recording the podcast today and thinking about our guest, I was thinking about how this guest has such a huge toolbox of self-discovery tools to share with us today that this is going to be a really dynamite conversation. I met our guest, Adele Michael, many years ago now. Adele, I don't know, but it could be 10 years ago this year. I'm not sure. We can count it up later, but I think it might be, or if it's not 10, it's probably 9. And I met her at the Art of Feminine Presence, which we met at a weekend retreat with Rachel Jane Groover. And Adele and I have stayed connected ever since and shared our journeys of evolving entrepreneurship and healing. And it's been such a pleasure to stay connected with you, Adele, over all this time. And I'm so happy to finally have you on the podcast. So welcome, Adele.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here with both of you and all your listeners.
Thank you. So Adele, would you give us a short kind of timeline run through a little bit of the work that you've done? Because I know, if we kind of travel back, right, to the early stages of your life coaching, there was hypnosis involved. And just so the listeners can get a little bit of an idea of what your background looks like. Yeah.
Sure. I went to college and I was pretty miserable. Had a lot of challenging inner dialogue. And so I decided to go to psychology school. So I got a master's in counseling psych. And how we were taught was just verbal interaction, like active listening, it was called. And it didn't really help my clients. So I thought, I don't think I can do this. So, and I lived in the South, grew up and lived in the South. So I decided I was going to New York City. So I went to New York, got a job at CBS News with Walter Cronkite. I had a great time in New York. And then I did.
So cool, Adele.
Then I didn't. So I came back home to North Carolina and I saw this big ad, one of those free news community newspapers for the Silva method of mind development and stress control. So I went and took that. The next year, the teacher was offering hypnosis. And I thought, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard of, hypnosis. But I knew I had to go. I went the first day of the class. I'm like, Shazam, I have found the way to talk to people to help them really change, because it's through the unconscious, the subconscious, that hypnosis works. And she also taught neurolinguistic programming, which is really the best practices for healing that were available at the time that it was developed. And it's very effective. NLP is what it's called as an abbreviation. So I started doing that I had a full-time job, and I did that as a side practice to build my practice. And people just really had many people had really great results. Very few people did not, because it was hard for them to trust and let their mind sit on the shelf during the hypnotic session. But if they could do that, then they got to know themselves very deeply. They bring the subconscious to the conscious mind. And so they had much more information, much more material to work with to help themselves feel better. And that's what happened. So I continued doing that for a long time and did some work with athletes, which was really fun. And then I was actually a licensed professional counselor in Atlanta for a few years. And I realized I liked I wanted to coach. I didn't want to be a therapist. So when I moved back to North Carolina, I started my coaching business, and I've always worked with women primarily to help them know their own value, know that they are enough, and know that they deserve abundance, prosperity, and happiness. And so that's what I've been doing. And I have to say that I've used it on myself a lot, and I've gotten a lot of help from other people who use similar techniques. And so a lot of that inner dialogue has shifted. And I'm happy to say I'm much happier than I ever was. And during the when we were in lockdown for the pandemic, and I was, reading and talking to people and how much upset there was, and there's still a lot of upset, anxiety, depression, mental health issues. I thought, it would be really helpful if people knew what I knew. So I'm taking a sabbatical through March because my mother just died, and I moved into a new house, and just has been a lot of chaos. So my intention is to teach what I've learned over the last 30 years so that people have their own tools to say, hey, let me think about whether this is really true, what I'm telling myself. So that's where I am.
Yeah, that's great. Laurel, I know
I was going to say, I know,
ready to
I mean,
jump
I
right-
love
go.
all of this, right? When you think about teaching people so that they have their own tools, I mean, that is just such a beautiful practice. And I want to say I find this with my own clients, the more that individuals can really believe that they have what they need to course correct whatever isn't working for them. I love that, and that you're at this stage in your career, your path. So tell us, what is the name of your business if our listeners want to find you?
Is the name Life More Abundant, but the URL for my website is my name.
Adele Michael. That's
and we'll
right.
put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
But continue. Laurel, I know you had a question.
Well, what was coming up for me really in an interesting way was, speaking into this idea of how therapy and talk therapy, and this came up in our one of our last sessions this month as we were discussing, the self-discovery tools is a beautiful tool, but it really is limited. And then it's the limitation to a certain extent is based on the practitioner themselves, right? And so the effectiveness and their body of experience and their ability to I think energetically connect. It's like being able to move beyond just the talking in the session and have more connection and energetic, shall we say, shifting going on during the experience. And so I think, Adele, what I would love for you to share a little bit more is the idea of this layered experience of, usually in a therapy session, we're talking in a conscious experience. We're talking about, with our conscious thoughts. But when we start to talk about the energetic, we're going into the subconscious realm or a deeper realm than just the conscious realm. And I know, one of the things that probably anybody can read if they do a little Google search, right, is that 90% or more of our behavior is actually based from our subconscious experience, not our conscious experience. So to just stay in the conscious realm is like, oh, you can get a 10% effect on, at some level, right? Like this is what we're talking about if we want to quantify it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like if you ever start a diet, you think you want to do a diet, and so you do it great for 3 days, and then the fourth day you have, a piece of pound cake and some ice cream, which it's not your intention. Yeah, it's willpower. I think there's been a lot written about willpower is short-lived, and what I have found is unless your subconscious is aligned with your conscious decision, it's really not going to work because Candace Pert, who was a bioimmunologist, I think she discovered a lot about how cells react and how emotions affect the body. Said that the unconscious is the body. It's not the mind, it's the body. And when you think about it, it makes so much sense for survival.
Right, right.
If your body's not breathing and digesting and all that stuff, then you're not going to be in a body. You're going to be not in a body. So I think we valued the mind since the Age of Enlightenment. We have valued the mind so much more than the body and the subconscious. And it's time to rediscover it, really. I mean, the ancients knew about it. And in fact, I will tell you this, Sigmund Freud studied in Paris with the leading hypnotherapist. That was his early medical training. And then he went into analysis because, he's going to use his mind. So I think it's time for us to balance that.
Yeah, I do too. And I love even just the image, Adele, like the mind being the upper, in this upper head area, right? And your subconscious being in the body, right? Below in the body. And so you think about just when you look at somebody, right? How big is the body? How big is the head, right? In relative terms. And we're back to that 90-10 image
Yes,
almost,
yes.
Yeah.
I thought about that. Yes.
Yeah. And so this idea of being able to work consciously as best you can with your subconscious in
Yes.
tandem with some energetic experiences, to me is such a potential for success in terms of making the shifts and the changes that people want. And I know people are frustrated, they feel like a lot of times they're doing the work, but they're not getting the results. And I feel like this is why, because sometimes you haven't gotten down into that foundational experience.
Right. And in the subconscious, that's where your wisdom is too. The body, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but we're all intuitive. Yeah. We're all wired to be intuitive because it's for survival. So if you walk into a restaurant and it doesn't smell right, or you feel kind of iffy about it, you might take heed of that and go, oh, my body does not want to be here. I think we should go someplace else. And we tend to override those instinctual triggers when it's really in our best interest to listen to them. Because I don't know about you, but many, many times I get the hint, take your umbrella. I don't do it. And it rains. It's like, I was told, I just didn't do it.
Yeah. I am taking a Science of Medical Intuition course with Carolyn Mason online course right now. And she introduces the class basically by saying, yeah, we all are intuitive. This is not a gift. This is a given, that we all have this in it. Like you said, it's part of our survival. And unfortunately, what happens is most of us spend our lives fighting it rather than living into it and having it be a guiding force in our lives. And I do feel like, when I'm working with people, that is a theme. That is absolutely a theme where, as we're speaking, I can hear that some part of them knows they need to do it differently, or they've needed to do it differently forever, but they haven't done it. They fought that.
Yeah.
And that's a lot through condition. Is that conditioning? Would you call that a lot of conditioning, Adele?
Yeah, I would say that. And also thinking that the mind is the dominant part of us when it's definitely, I mean, we all need our minds, but I think for me, I mean, one of the things I'm learning still is to listen more to my body and to say, I had adrenal fatigue for a while, and it was like, oh, it took me a while to go, just go lay down. You're tired.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep pushing, but that was my pattern. That's what I thought I had to do.
Yeah. Well, I know Laurel works a lot with people on burnout and speaks to groups about burnout. And Laurel is in that one of the I don't know, a most self-limiting patterns is we fatigue ourselves and we can't stop.
right? We can't, and I love that, the wisdom coming from your body and your subconscious, um, and trusting that, we know what we need, because I think that there's an awful lot of the doing that gets in our way, right? And then getting into the work that you do, Adele, with helping someone discover their worth, right? So much of our worth in the world that we live in this culture that we live in, is really tied to our doing and our productivity. Even if our bodies start to tell us we're doing too much, we don't
Yes.
listen. So I think that is, I can't wait to hear a little bit about the clients that you work with. Are they all ready to get out of their head? And because I find so many people are not ready, often when I ask someone how they feel, where they feel it, um, they really right away go into their thoughts about the feeling, not the
Exactly.
feeling, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so tell us about how do you work with your individual clients or groups and get them feeling in their body?
Well, okay, this is a great place to introduce this idea of brainwave states. And you may be familiar with that, but there are four main brainwave states, and it's the speed at which the energy is moving through the brain. So when we're talking, we're in beta. That's the fastest. When you get relaxed, like that moment before you go to sleep, you may be in alpha, or if you meditate, you're usually in alpha, which is a little bit slower. And that's the brainwave state where you are connected to your body, you're connected to the universe. Really, that's a very important place to be able to get to. And some people, if they're running so fast and they're in like hyper beta, it's hard for them to slow down. It's hard to relax. The next one down is theta, and that's a deeper, slower brainwave. And that's where you actually can change your body. There's a whole body of work called theta healing, where the practitioner gets into the theta brainwave state, and that helps the client get into the theta brainwave state so that you can actually change your body there. And then delta is the lowest, and usually you're asleep when you're in delta. So if you're operating at beta, which is fast, talk, you don't have access to your body. If you can, and it's not hard to learn to go into alpha, but if you can do that, you have more access to what's going on with yourself and what's going on in the body. And that's actually what a lot of hypnosis is. It's helping you get into alpha and theta. But there are other, you don't have to be hypnotized. You can, calmly look at a flame or look at, a plant or something, and just allow your mental gyrations to relax a little bit. But I think a lot of people, especially if they work in corporate, feel they can't stop or they'll lose their job. They have to work 18 hours a day to prove to their boss that they are doing a good job. And so most of the people I work with they're small business owners. So they have a lot of responsibility, but they don't have a boss that's telling them you have to work 18 hours a day. I think that's a big part of it. And I think also American culture, we don't like to relax. In Italy, you get 12 weeks of vacation a year.
Wow, 12 weeks.
Yeah, they think we're crazy. Europeans think we're crazy for the way we live. So we're fighting against a lot of societal norms when we try to slow down. But I think at some point, for many people, it becomes, a matter of self-preservation. Like, I can't work that hard. My body's falling apart. My mental attitude is terrible. I never see my family. And so I think one approach is to say, what's important to you? Of course, your job's important to you. Of course, the benefits of health insurance, et cetera, are important. But is your health important? Is your family important? Is there a way? Because there are people who can turn it around.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, Laurel, that your clients are able to do that with your help. But internal stories are, I got to work my ass off. Sorry. I've got to work really hard to stay, or just to stay even with anybody, and much less to progress. That's what I perceive is going on. And to help people, you asked how I work with people, to help them see that pattern and train them to go into the alpha, which is actually very easy, so that they have more access to their own wisdom and more access to what's going on around them.
Adele, I love that you just talked about it, like learning how to get into alpha, because I think that, as everybody knows who listens to the show and knows me, like meditation is my jam, right? I love meditation. It's changed my life. I know I was an anxious person more so than I even realized, and so meditation, being able to come into the alpha state was deeply healing and life-changing for me. And I recognized it and I stayed with it because I realized this is a way of life that I need to cultivate to have the quality of life that I want. And in some respects, that's pretty simple. We talk about it like it's this huge thing, right? And maybe transcendental meditation had its day, and everybody now thinks you're transcending to some other thing if you're meditating. But in some respects, it's getting into an alpha state and learning how to stay there for a while and enjoy it and feel your whole being.
Exactly. I think you mentioned Rachel Jane Groover before, who we both studied with and loved. I still do. And she talks about that there's a difference between the way men meditate and women. She finds that men have an easier time with the clear mind, like I'm not seeing anything, I'm just like, and women see more images. That's the way, and that's true for me. And images can be so helpful. I remember, yeah. That's what our dreams are about, right?
I know.
Giving you images, telling you what you're really thinking.
Yeah.
Or what you're really feeling inside. I remember when I was in therapy in New York City, and I was working with a very, very capable therapist, but he was very analytical. And I came in one time and I said, I feel like I'm a princess in a pumpkin, like Cinderella, but the coach had turned back into a pumpkin. He goes, I do not understand what you're talking about. Okay. Well, but that's proven to me to be very helpful. It's like, what's the image when I think about my work? What do I perceive? Do I perceive a cage, a hamster wheel, a lush garden? And that's, that's the language of the subconscious, is the image and the sensations. Like Laurel was saying, she asked her clients, where do they feel things? That's accessing the body.
Yeah. The wisdom of the body, right? And also, I think unlocking, right, your ability to begin to start bringing some of the subconscious material into consciousness, because it's almost like it's locked in there until you're willing to go seek it and connect with it.
A very accomplished psychotherapist who worked with Virginia Satir, who was one of the models for neuro-linguistic programming, said that there is a superhighway from the mind to the body, and there's a goat track from the body to the mind. So getting into the alpha state actually expands the goat track. So maybe you have 3 goat tracks instead of just one. So that is something to be aware of and to honor. I'm getting these messages through an image. I don't know what it means, but if you sit with it, like if you if you see a situation, this is going to be weird, but this is how the subconscious works. If you see a situation as sour lemon juice, it's like, what is that telling you? It's like, it's not very palatable. Maybe you could add some sugar and make lemonade. I don't know. But there's something that could, there's something that's not attractive to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Adele, as people begin to, work more consciously with wanting to create their beautiful life, manifest the life of their dreams, however, whatever the right words are for however people identify for themselves. I know that it's so important to begin to become aware of your inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Right. And for many, it feels like a frustration that they can't change the inner dialogue really readily.
Right.
Yeah. And so, I like to think of, using the image of a record player, like you've been stuck in a groove where you've repeated this story or this thought pattern over and
Yes.
over and over again, right? And so your mind readily just goes there. And so there's a piece of the puzzle, which is coming up with, right, a new story, a new thought pattern that you begin to adopt that helps you get out of that groove and begin a new groove, right? So that's one piece of the puzzle. Then we're talking about this idea of the subconscious beliefs being a foundation that kind of produces a lot of the thought patterns and the fears and emotional states that we're in. So I know that you're going to begin to teach people more and more about this work. Can you give us maybe a little lesson today? Yeah, to kind of put this puzzle together a little bit for people. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I find that it's really capturing that inner dialogue is the first step. And it's because it's the water we swim in, the air we breathe. It's like, of course it's true that I'm not blah, blah, blah. That capturing is the first thing. So this exercise is very simple. You take a piece of paper, you draw a vertical line. On the left side, first of all, you think about something you desire, but you're not sure it's going to happen. So let's say you want more clients for a private practice, or you want a particular job. On the left side, you write all the reasons why you can't do that. So I'm not qualified. Let's say you want a job. I'm not qualified. I don't have any experience in there. I'm a terrible interviewer. People don't really like me all that much. I don't think I can do the job. I mean, you might have a list of 10 or 15 things. So you put that on the left side. On the right side, you turn it 180 degrees. So I may be qualified. You got to have an interview to find out if you're qualified. I work really hard. I'm very conscientious, just the opposite. And then that right side is what you affirm to yourself. We all know about affirmations, and affirmations, I think, can be helpful in turning. I don't know that they go deep enough. So to take them deeper, so that's the first step. Second step, limiting beliefs. The opposite of that limiting belief, something that you believe is true, like you are a hard worker, or you do really care about what the job's about, or you know you would do a good job if you got the chance. So that's the first step. The second step is to allow yourself to imagine getting the job or being in the interview and doing a good job, shaking hands with the interviewer, who says, "This is really a great experience. We'll be getting back to you." And then you imagine getting the call or the email of, "You got the job." And then it's called future pacing. You can go a year into the future and you look back and go, "Wasn't that a great day when I got that job? And look how well I've done." So it's kind of cheerleading, self-cheerleading. to do that. But also when you have those images and those feelings, you are accessing the subconscious. You're accessing your body's wisdom to put yourself in that future. So that's where how I would start. So you would start with the mental, the writing, and then you would go into the imagining and the feeling.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I feel like, you know, I want to come back to affirmations. I love to hit on this topic every once in a while because it's been such a prevalent topic in the self-help world for so long. And I think Louise Hay, you know, did a huge amount to bring it forth as a potential, right, for really helping us. And I know that at the end of her life, Louise actually learned that, you know, there was like you still had those limiting internal places sometimes that the affirmations couldn't reach to. And so, you know, she was talking about tapping with people and, you know, some of the techniques that we talk about, right, to break through those blocks, right, those energetic fields of, I can't seem to get beyond this. And so affirmations, you know, to me, when I think about affirmations, so Adele, I wanted your take on this, is as long as your body doesn't reject the affirmation, it can be useful.
Yes.
But if you're saying an affirmation that your body literally is like, you know, you can feel like the resistance, the pushing away to it, then you've got to search around for something that your body will actually open to.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
So if an entrepreneur comes in and says, you know, I want to make $1 million this year, and you say, well, great, where are you now? Making about 4,000. It's like, that's a big leap. And you know, the mind might think it's true, but as you say, the body's going to go, no.
Yeah.
So in that case, I would say that you could start affirming. What could you start affirming? What do you think that would work better?
One of the affirmations I use with money, because it has to be true, is that there's a lot of money in this world.
Yes.
I tell myself that all the time. You know, there's a lot of money in this world. That's true.
It is true.
It opens the door for me. I believe that wholeheartedly. And then the next thought is along the lines of, it's possible that some of that money is already mine, right? Yeah. It's like, which is true, right? It is possible. Some of that money is mine. But I tell, you know, I do this a lot with affirmations with my clients too. If they don't believe it, if it is so far-fetched, it's never gonna help. You know, one of my false affirmations is, I'm tall. I'm not tall. I could tell myself I'm 5'10" all day long. I could affirm that, but I would never believe it to be true, right? So I love that this is, you know, opening that window of possibility with true affirmations is really important.
Such a good point. A coach that I coached with said, and she had been in the financial services world, so she knew there's lots of money. And she said, I know there's a lot of money in the world, and I just need to step in the stream so I can just get a bit of that into my world. So that's another image of, like, you know, the flow of money, and you step in and, you know, you've got how big is your container? Oh, I've got a 5-gallon bucket. Take that over to my place. And I think you bring up a great point too. I think questions are better than affirmations.
I do too.
Was it possible for me to make more money?
Yeah.
And your subconscious, it's going to start working to answer that question.
Yeah. For you, right? And that's the thing about the question versus the affirmation is, an affirmation is like, it's already a done deal. And so it may or may not fit into your world, right? But the question is seeking the pathway that's right for you. Right?
Yeah. You don't have to know how either.
Yeah.
And that's another way the mind gets in the in the way. Like, I don't know, how would I make more money? Like I can't, the mind could say, well, you can't make more money, but if you keep asking the question and you're persistent, then you start getting the ideas, or you meet the right people, or the opportunities come. Yeah, it's so much more open than a statement, really. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I believe that invisible forces come to help us too. When we ask those questions, especially if we're open to having help from other people, from the universe, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
In my life, it's just been amazing. If I'm open to it, I tend to think I have to do it all. So I forget sometimes that I can ask for help. But I think that's a really big part of it too. Questions, asking for help, being willing to listen to yourself. A lot of people tell me they can't meditate, and I couldn't meditate before the age of 40. But I did learn to do that. But I think if you don't have any time to meditate, you have young kids, you've got a busy job, whatever. If you ever take a shower, you're in there for at least 5 minutes, and you can let the water, run over you, and just think your thoughts, have your images, feel your feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know I started meditating when my kids were little, and part of it was making, when we come back to this idea of your will, right? Your will is only going to get you so far. What you want is you want your will to be in alignment with what you really want, And so for me I wanted a space where I was going to be able to have time to be quiet. And that was going to happen after my kids were asleep or before they woke up in the morning. And I tried first after they were asleep and I fell asleep. So it had to be the morning for me, So part of this is like, what do you really want?
Yes.
What do you really, really want, And I think that's a piece of that puzzle is moving beyond your conditioning. So many of us have been conditioned to think you should want this, you should want that. This is what's important. This is, the American dream, whatever. And yet in our heart of hearts, sometimes what we want is so different from all of that.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also being willing to let yourself have it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Worthy piece.
Yeah. 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 So Adele, I'm excited that you're going to be teaching. I'm excited that your business has evolved to that place. We will have in the show notes how people can reach you. And it's so easy too, because Adele Michael, you got adelemichael.com. So they can always go there, right? Because however, or whatever you're offering will be right there at your name when they Google you. So just remember Adele Michael. And if you're ready to, get some self-discovery tools under your belt that are going to be of great help to you in getting you where you want to go in this life, I can highly recommend Adele Michael from personal experience and, just knowing, your own journey. I'm a big proponent of, you need to be with your practitioner a little bit and get a sense of who they are and whether they're doing their own work. And there are many practitioners out there today that have not done their own work and aren't even necessarily doing their own work today. And so, for me, that's a really big part of the process is they can only take you as far as they've gone, really. And I know Adele's done such beautiful depth of work. And so, yeah, if you're looking for somebody to get some skills under your belt, Adele's your gal. Yeah. Thank you, Adele. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. Thank you.
I enjoyed every minute of it, and I can't wait to learn more about what you're doing next.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, off we go. We'll be back next week for more beautiful work, beautiful life. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.